Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hitting that play button for another episode of the Hetty Coleman Podcast, where I have go-in conversations with fabulous people so I can get their story out there so you can learn from it, be inspired by it, and connect with them. And today on the podcast, I have Tim Rooney, and Tim is the city manager for Mustang here in the great state of Oklahoma, where I reside, where I do life, in a very small town, a little bit away from Mustang, just north of, I live in Guthrie, America is what I'm trying, I don't even know where am I going with that. I live in Guthrie, America, he lives in Mustang, America, and we're both in Oklahoma. I love city managers, I love community leaders, people who build community, build towns, build cities. So I am so grateful that Tim took the opportunity to come out and just hang out with me and let me just sit down with him and ask him all sorts of questions. We talk about things, looking at my notes because I take notes. We talk about things like, how to get a job. How did he begin to position himself to get a job as a city manager? We talk about the day in the life of a city manager. He was once a city planner, so he kind of shares with me what the day of a city planner is like. We talk about just some of his routines and some great moments he has had as a city manager. And I'm telling you, this episode is worth listening to through the whole thing. We talk about his delicious cheesecake. We don't go into depth, but he brought me this delicious cheesecake. And oh my goodness, it was so good. And so I'm excited about you all listening in. And before we jump into it, would you please subscribe? And if you think that there's something in this, it may just be one or two things in this podcast that you feel like somebody else could benefit from. Will you share this with them? But yeah, subscribe if you're listening on Apple, if you're watching on YouTube, whatever, however, subscribe, leave a comment, say what up to Tim. Thank him for the work that he's doing in Mustang, because when one city community thrives, I feel like we all have the opportunity to thrive, and just learning from one another and seeing how we are doing things. So let's jump into this. I don't have a lot to say. I just want to say hello. Thank you for hitting that play button. I so appreciate it. And so, again, ladies and gentlemen, Tim Rooney, let's do this. Yeah! Tim, man, thank you for being here with me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Hey, let's just jump right into this. I think through the questions, hopefully people will get to know more of you.
Okay.
And essentially, I like to have what I call go-in conversations. Mm-hmm. And from that, I believe that you kind of are able to communicate your story, and from that, people learn, are inspired, and connect. Okay. And so kind of give us your 120-second story. Give us some highlights of your life.
I was born in Savannah, Georgia, and I grew up a military brat. My father was Air Force, and I'm one of three children. And my father was killed in a plane crash in 1970, and my mom remarried a Coast Guard, a gentleman in the Coast Guard, 2 years later. And we like to say that she had a soft spot for a man in uniform, but she says that she thought he was a bus driver. So then we moved from Cape May, New Jersey to Kodiak, Alaska. Mm-hmm. Lived there for 3 years. My stepdad finished his military service in Cleveland, Ohio in 1977, and then we moved to Northeast Pennsylvania. And I really consider the Philadelphia area home. That's where most of my family relatives are from or at now. It's where my mom grew up and my father. And went to school in North Central Pennsylvania, a small little college called Mansfield, Pennsylvania, Mansfield University. Majored in communications with an emphasis in broadcasting and geography with an emphasis in regional planning. And so my city career actually started in planning.
Okay.
radio, you've got to be really good if you're going to make money in radio.
Yeah.
I had a face for radio, but I didn't have the other talent for radio. So went into planning, and my first position was in Arizona, Chandler, Arizona, a suburb of Phoenix. Then Northwest Arizona, I was in Kingman. Then moved to Owasso, Oklahoma. I was there for 17 years.
As a planner?
Started as a planner, then community development director, and then assistant city manager.
Okay.
And left there to become a city manager in Wrangell, Alaska, which is southeast Alaska between Ketchikan and Juneau. Was there 4 years, and my assistant finance director in Owasso took the finance director job in Mustang. And when they had an opening for their city manager, she reached out to me in Alaska, and she said, I don't know if you want to get back to Oklahoma, but I think this would be a good fit for you.
Okay.
So I applied on the last day, and my first interview was by Skype, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
7 years ago.
Yeah.
To do that. And I sat with mountains and water behind me, something for them to look at besides me. And
now, were you intentionally doing that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You set it all
up.
Yeah.
Yes. And then they flew me in for the interview, and the interview was the day of the 3 mile wide tornado that went through El Reno. And so that was interesting. That was an interesting day, and I got to see how the city responded to a very scary event.
Yeah.
And of course, if you live in Northeast Oklahoma, the tornadoes over here are a lot different. It's a lot more violent over here. It doesn't happen like that up there. So that was a little bit of a learning experience. I met with the mayor the next morning, and he said, do you still want to come here? And I said, tornadoes are part of Oklahoma. You just you roll with it.
Yeah.
And I've been in Mustang for almost 7 years.
Nice. Yeah. So whenever you were, I don't know what time in your life you decided that you wanted to be going to city development. I don't know what you would actually call it, but when you were a kid, were you already thinking about working in a city, or?
I wanted to be a weatherman.
Okay.
I was fascinated with weather as a kid, and I really wanted to go that route. And there's this little course that you need to be really good at to become a weatherman, and that's physics. And that was not in my wheelhouse. So, but I loved geography, and I loved broadcasting, and I thought, okay, let me see if I can. So I dual majored in that, and I did my internship was in planning. So it seemed natural for me to go there. And at that time, when I graduated college, the fastest growing areas of the country were anywhere in the South or Arizona or California. And so I began to send my resume everywhere, and I accepted a 30-hour-a-week job in Chandler, Arizona. I thought, I'm not going to be attractive to people until I'm in the area.
Yeah.
Then once I was in the area, then a full-time position opened up in Kingman.
So right now you are currently a city manager.
Uh-huh.
Tell the difference between a planner and a city manager. Like what are the two different roles?
The planner, I would say, is more responsible for the physical development of the city.
Okay.
Once that path is mapped out on how you want your city to develop, the planner is more involved in, subdivision review, making sure that you don't have two intersections too close to each other, making sure that you have land uses that are compatible with each other, so that you don't end up with a nice home that backs up to a shopping center, things like that.
So before you go into the city manager, what does a day in the life of a city planner look like? What would be a quick, ideal day for you?
Well, it would really depend, but you tend to meet with a lot of developers who are interested in developing in your community. You answer a lot of code enforcement questions, a lot of zoning questions, people wanting to know what is permissible, what isn't permissible. Mm-hmm. One of the favorite questions I ever got was when I was in Kingman. A woman called and wanted to know if she could bury her husband in her backyard.
Oh my goodness!
And my first response was, "Is he dead?" And she said, "No, but he's terminal, and I'm just trying to plan." And I said, "No, you can't bury your husband in the backyard. That's not a permitted use. It's just."
Now, had you ever heard after that day? Had you ever heard that again?
No.
Okay.
I could write a book. I could write a book on some of the weird questions that you get.
I bet.
It's interesting. I don't think anybody would read it, but it is funny.
Yeah.
To people who are in that line of work.
For sure. So for some student or somebody who's looking to change careers, what would you say it takes to be a good city planner? Like, what would you be looking for in a city planner?
Personable, being able to explain complex issues in layman's terms.
Yeah.
Being able, you need to be a good communicator.
Yeah.
You really do. And then you also have to have a good sense of direction and a good sense of community.
Okay.
You have to understand that you want your community to go in a certain direction, and whether this item that's being proposed, while it may be permitted technically in that location, is that the best location for it? Is that, or is there another location in the community that would work better?
Can you give me an example of what that would look like?
Well, for an industrial community,
okay,
a community that's looking at putting in a large industrial complex. Where do you want it? You usually don't want it on highly valued land.
Okay.
You usually want it on land that might not be as attractive visually and might be a little bit further removed from your residential area.
Nice. I love this kind of stuff. I'm not in the work specifically, but I love city development stuff. So that's city planner. Mm-hmm. I think we got a good scope on that. Now, talk about what a city manager does.
City manager oversees day-to-day operations of a city. You oversee the police department, fire department, public works, if you have a public works department, streets, parks, and rec, community development, which would include the planning aspect of it, finance as well. And Mustang, we also have a library, so that's included. Okay.
What are some things that you feel like people assume a city manager does, and you like, we don't do that?
That we can tell people we can tell people whether they can build in a community or not. Like that's something that we can just say, well, if you don't, you should just tell them no, they can come, and you can't do that. Yeah. It's not, they think you have a lot more power than you do, and it's not glamorous. It's not glamorous. Now, but all that being said, you have the ability, I think,
to influence that.
Yeah, and I think you have the ability to make a difference in people's lives more on a local government level than a state or national level, or even a county level.
Yeah.
When you're in local government, you really have the ability to shape a community and to make an impact on your community. And I think it's very important to always keep that in the back of your mind. And because I don't think if you're in my seat, or really if you're in any local elected position seat, it shouldn't be a decision that's ever made flippantly. It should be well thought, well defended, and talk to your staff and find out. Those are the experts. You put people in different positions to do their job. Mm-hmm. Let them do their job and get advice from them.
Yeah. Is that the reason that sometimes it feels like things are moving slow, is because a good city manager is probably taking their time, really thinking things through, asking a lot of questions to a lot of different people to make sure that we're making good decisions?
It is. And then also you kind of inherently know what will work in your community and what might not work in your community. Mustang is a very conservative community. So a beer garden probably wouldn't work well in Mustang.
Okay.
But there are different events that you can look at, different celebrations that would work well in Mustang.
Yeah.
And what types of businesses can be supported. I always say Mustang is so close to Yukon. We're 5 miles down the road from Yukon.
Yeah.
And any time that we can get a national retailer or restaurant locate in Mustang when they're already in Yukon, that shows that we're our own community. People want to shop here, they want to stay here, and it can be successful. Mm-hmm. And we have several of those businesses. So we try to market Mustang that way.
Yeah.
To show that.
So as a city manager, do you find yourself concerned about the close proximity of like a Yukon? You're in Mustang, Oklahoma, Yukon, Oklahoma City, and your people traveling outside of your city limits to shop?
So much of municipal government in Oklahoma is dependent on sales tax. Yeah. That is your revenue stream. Mm-hmm. And we are the only state in the nation that doesn't allow you to utilize property tax for operational purposes.
Oh.
You can use property tax to build a building.
Yeah.
But you can use property tax to put things in the building that you will need. But as far as day-to-day operations or paying for the people that are going to staff that facility, That's all dependent on sales tax, and we're the only state in the nation that doesn't allow that.
No, why is that? Why
I think historically Oklahoma hasn't welcomed property taxes in Oklahoma seem to be more reserved for the school system, which is good.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But we are the only state. So, and it's funny that when city managers come here from other states, they're just amazed at.
They're blown away.
Yes, because sales tax is so volatile. You don't know how. It's very hard to forecast.
Yeah.
So it makes budgeting a little bit different.
Where property tax, you definitely can kind of budget that out
Usually,
and understand what's coming in. Yeah, yeah. So if I'm getting ready to move into a city, from your perspective as a city manager, what are some things that you have found that people are really looking for and what they think makes a city thrive and versus our opinion as somebody looking in as a citizen and getting ready to move versus city manager? What are the two things that you're like, this is what they think, but this is what I would say you definitely want to look for, and they may line up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think for the most part, from a city manager's perspective, I think you want to make sure your relationships between your organization and the school and your organization and the chamber and your organization and the faith community are strong and complementary to each other.
Okay.
And there's not tension between those groups.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times for families, they always focus on schools. Schools are the big thing that they look at. And they don't always look down a little bit more into, and of course, it's the type of housing that's offered in your community. Yeah. Always.
Yeah. Do you think that, how does a city go about coming alongside one another like you're talking about? What are some right things that you like, hey, we need to be consistent in this to make sure that we're locking arms and working together?
I always say, and I'm not saying that this is a popular stance, but we felt this way in Owasso, which was a suburb or a bedroom community of Tulsa, and Mustang is very much a bedroom community of Oklahoma City. Some people don't like that term. They don't like, but own it. That's what we are. Why try to pretend that we're something that we're not?
Yeah.
We're a bedroom community.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So what can we do to continue to thrive in that role?
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that I try to communicate all the time that maybe not be so popular is, look, if an Amazon distribution center is coming and it's either going to come to Oklahoma City or Edmond or Mustang or Tuttle or Yukon, sure, do we want it in Mustang? We'd love for it to be in Mustang. But you know what? If it's in Oklahoma City, we will get some of those families living in Mustang. Mm-hmm. And what's good for Oklahoma City, I feel, is good for the region. Mm-hmm. It's good for all of us that are around it, including Guthrie.
Yeah.
And to continue to make sure that those relationships are positive. Mustang hasn't always had a good relationship with Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And I think it's better. Yeah. I still think it can get better.
Yeah. But thinking about the faith organization, schools, city, chamber, how have you found it find success in making sure that all of those entities are working well together?
I think you make sure you take an active role in all of them.
Okay.
You have people in your organization that take active roles in all of them. We have people that attend the Ministerial Alliance in Mustang. I'm actually president this year of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm the first city manager ever to be president of the Chamber of Commerce. And that's a very bizarre, strange thing but it shouldn't be. But it is, because sometimes those two organizations butt heads more than they should.
So you're saying that it shouldn't be the way that they butt heads, but how do you see them being able to function together? Like, how would you suggest that they work together? Which I think so too. I think they should work together for us to thrive.
I think sometimes people hold grudges for ridiculous amount of time
for years,
and let that stuff go.
Yeah.
Let that stuff go.
Yeah.
There are people in Mustang that are still upset that Oklahoma City wanted to try to annex it back in 1960. I don't know. No, let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. There's different people there. They're not there anymore. The people who made those decisions back then probably aren't even alive anymore. Most of them. Just move on.
Yeah.
And I think if you focus on the relationship building rather than the look forward, don't look back. I think there's a book I know I read when I was in Owasso. I think it's Good to Great.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things he says is look out the window for praise and look in the mirror for blame. And I don't think he says it in this book, but I've heard it said. There's a reason why the front windshield is bigger than the rear view mirror, because it's more important where you're headed than where you've been. And good. Focus on that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. So for those who are listening, because most people think chamber, I just got this question yesterday. Mm-hmm. They think the chamber and the city are the same.
And in some communities, the chamber is funded by the city government.
Okay.
That does happen sometimes, but I think they're two very different organizations. And I think they serve two very different purposes.
What were those purposes?
In some communities, the chamber is more responsible for the economic development portion or aspect of developing your community. I look at the chamber as the group that represents businesses more so, and they're the lobbying group for the businesses in the community. And they are the ones that are always looking for ways to increase activity in your community.
Yeah.
And the city doesn't always go that way. I think sometimes the city is more focused on residents than business owners. However, sales tax is your most important component of a community.
Yeah.
You need to have good relationships there. And if you have a good relationship with the chamber and they get a phone call where somebody's upset and and you have that kind of relationship where they can pick up the phone and call you, it's so much better.
Yeah.
So much better.
Yeah. So how long have you been doing this dual role?
It will be done in May. It's 1 year, and it's been a fun year. It's been interesting.
Yeah.
And it has made me look at things differently at different times too.
Yeah.
We have, if you've ever been in Mustang, we have some traffic issues at different times of the day on State Highway 152. And one of the things that we're looking at doing is restricting turning movements. You can only come right out of this business. You won't be able to turn left.
Oh, okay.
And there are some business owners that got a little upset about that. And to be honest, they should have, because they got a letter in the mail. We failed. We didn't sit down with them. We didn't communicate with them. It all comes back to communication. So we now have meetings set up to discuss that, and they need to be heard.
Yeah.
They need to be heard.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, that's good. That's really good. So juggling two roles, those are very busy roles. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming you have some routines in your life. Like, what does that look like? How do you go about planning your day? Like, do you have some morning routines, evening?
I work out usually during the morning.
Okay.
And I've learned over time that don't think that you're going to work it into your schedule. Put it in your schedule. Make it part of your schedule. I was really fascinated by the young lady you interviewed, I think two podcasts ago,
Gina Worthing,
with her scheduling book. I thought I need to look at this book because I thought that is actually good. And I'm a very visual person, so I like to see that.
Yeah.
It may be in my phone, but I'd rather turn a page and look at it on paper and write a note. And I thought I thought that was very interesting.
Taskkeeper.com.
Yep.
Yeah. So you use a calendar. You kind of make sure that you plan everything. Now, are you one of those people who plan out every hour?
No.
Quarter? Okay.
No. I plan out whenever I'm meeting with employees or whenever I'm meeting with businesses or any citizen like that. And I do have weekly and monthly meetings that are always on the calendar. I am more morning oriented.
Okay.
So if it's something that's not a mundane task like filing, I will put that off until the end of the day. The filing, because that's when I begin to shut down. In the morning is when I'm more energetic. I want a morning meeting every time over an evening meeting.
Yeah. Now, I think earlier you said maybe you have about 80 full-time staff people. What are some things that you do consistently to kind of be the best leader you can to your team? What are some things that you do?
I think your role as a city manager or the leader of any organization is to be responsible for providing resources to them to do their job. And so you should be a resource to them. I don't believe in micromanaging. I believe if you hire a planner to do a job, if you hire a fire chief to do a job, they know what they're doing, or they should. And if they don't know what they're doing, well, then we have a different issue. Then we have a poor selection, and you deal with that. But I encountered a staff in Mustang that they didn't feel empowered. And I think you have to empower your staff, and you empower your department directors. They turn around and empower the staff below them. And then also, I think you always make sure employees know how much they're valued. I know we're friends on Instagram, and one of the things my boss in Owasso taught me was on Valentine's Day, you hand deliver a rose to every woman who works in your organization.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I can remember asking him, why do you do that?
Yeah.
And he said, you need to understand that for some of these women, this may be the only rose they ever get.
Wow, yeah.
And they should always know how much you appreciate their work. So that's something I continue to do, and something I do in Mustang. Just look for those little opportunities to give back.
Yeah, yeah.
And it doesn't take time, a lot of time. Your thank you notes.
Yeah.
It's very similar to that. Just slowing down and making sure that you have time in your schedule to reflect on what happened that week, and is there anybody you need to thank or follow up with, and then follow through.
Yeah, no, that's good. So I definitely hear you saying, as a leader, you should be able to resource those people that you're leading in order for them to do their job well, and then also celebrating are two of the things that I really take away from that. That's good. As a citizen of a city or community, what are your suggestions to us to be the best citizens possible for the community that you get to manage?
Making sure that you share concerns when you have them, but doing it in a way that is positive. I think social media can be a great tool. I also think that it can be a bully pulpit. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's helpful to the person complaining, because it puts them in a category right away.
Yeah.
For the administration. And then it tends to, there's this kind of mob mentality that kind of snowballs, and we're public servants, and come and visit with us. Come in and share your concern. That's what your government is there for.
Yeah.
That's what they should be there for.
Yeah. That's good. So as a city manager, what are some things that you look to do to be able to say, hey, I'm the best city manager you could ever experience? What does that look like for you? Do you sit up and think, man, how can I be a better city manager today?
No, I don't do that. I mean, maybe that's bad, because I think every city manager, what makes a good city manager in Mustang might not make a good city manager in Guthrie. For sure. It very much has to be about the fit with the community.
Okay.
But then once you've established that that's your fit, then look at your organization and look at your weaknesses. Look at where you need to improve, and don't be afraid to take those on. When I arrived in Mustang, we had a terrible web presence. It was awful. We didn't have a social media presence. There was a social media page, but it wasn't run by this city. So you didn't know, people would read stuff on there and believe it or not. So we got very involved in that. I think anytime you can communicate your story versus letting the media or a disgruntled person communicate your story, you're better off.
Yeah. Yeah. So the city didn't run the City of Mustangs
Facebook page. No, there was and if you go to if you go on Facebook and type in City of Mustang and you're looking for a page, 3 will come up. One is a private group. One is a group that is run by like 4 different people, and then there's the city page.
Oh, so they're still there.
Oh yeah, they're still there.
Oh.
And we have 2 newspapers in Mustang. 2. And we're 21,000, 22,000 people.
Oh my goodness!
So it's really kind of entertaining at times.
Yeah. So what managing social media? What are some things that you look for in somebody who's doing that? Like, what do you want them to be able to do well?
For somebody who's managing,
yeah.
They need to be able to understand the issue and communicate it in a manner there, and always be out in front on the issue. My mantra is no surprises. I don't ever want to be surprised, and I assume the elected officials don't ever want to be surprised. So you make sure that those types of things don't happen to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
Make sure it's communicated well in advance. One of the things we started in Mustang is we did work sessions with the council on off Tuesdays from council meetings. And that was where we could communicate a direction staff would be going in, and we could get a feel from them if they liked it or didn't. Because the last thing we want to do is put something in front of the council and them shoot it down. It doesn't good. Staff gets bitter about that. They are unhappy with us for putting something in front of them that they don't like. So that's helped as well.
Yeah. Now, is that something that you've always done in other cities? Or you just
we did it in Owasso for the 17 years I was there, and we also did it. I was in an island community in Alaska. It was 2,500 people. It was very small, so we didn't need to have as many work sessions there. Yeah. Winter, everybody goes in their house and doesn't come out. So it was a little bit different, but it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah. So tell me a great moment as a city manager that you've had, and it doesn't have to be in Mustang, but tell me one of those moments you like. I was just really proud to be a city manager.
Can I do two?
Yeah, you do. Yes. Yeah.
I will just tell you that if I had my checkbook here, you'd be able to see it because I have a note tucked in my checkbook, and I don't think anybody even carries a checkbook anymore. I don't know, but I still.
What is this? What is the checkbook?
Yeah. So when we had the ice storm back in 2007, when I was in Owasso, and we were paralyzed by it. We didn't have electricity for 4 days, most of the community, and there were some parts of the community, and this happened on the Saturday a week after Thanksgiving. Some people didn't have power until Christmas Eve. And it was very easy to tell those people. You go into Walmart and you can just tell they had this like stare on their eyes, like they were miserable. Anyway, I got to thank, we went around and picked up everybody's limbs. We had it very organized. We were the first community in the Tulsa area to be complete. Mm-hmm. And I got a thank you note from an 83-year-old woman. Thank you for picking up my tree limbs. Oh. I couldn't do it. And it was just handwritten on a sheet of notebook paper that she kind of ripped off and saved the rest of it and put it in with her utility bill. And that's just a good reminder of what municipal government should do.
Yeah.
And I've always kept that with me because it's a good reminder when you get discouraged, when you've had a bad day. Then the other thing, Mustang turned 50 this year. And we planned a big celebration for that event. And it was interesting to just see the community come together for that event.
Yeah.
And everything was free. Everything was, and it ended on a Thursday night. Mustang is one of the communities, I think Guthrie maybe too. Do you allow fireworks here on 4th of July?
Uh-huh.
Yes. So Mustang becomes ground zero on the 4th of July. But we had fireworks for our 50th birthday. We had 1,000 cupcake birthday cake. We buried a time capsule. And I gave every department a different role, and they all did it. And it was great, and community had a great time. And that's one of those events that you don't get a do-over next year.
Yeah.
It's a 50th birthday, and then you're done.
Yeah.
And you want everything to go well, and we had beautiful weather. It was October, and it was just, that was one of the times where I went to bed that night thinking, this is awesome. This is great. And to kick off that week, we brought back every elected official who ever served as a council member.
Really?
To a breakfast. And when I told some people in the community that I was going to do that, they said, you might need a police presence at that breakfast. And I said, you know what? People know that this is about celebrating a community, and if they have ego issues, there's going to be no place there for that.
Yeah.
And it went very well. It went good. It was fun. And it was
really
fun
cool.
We had a gentleman who served on the original city council for Mustang in 1969, and he came to the breakfast and he talked to the group.
Wow.
And so I want to say he's 88 now. He came to the breakfast and he stood up and talked and commented on how much he loved everything that Mustang was becoming. And you don't always get that from the old guard.
Yeah.
So that was touching. It was good.
So he still lives there?
Yes, he does.
Wow.
He does,
Do you remember anything was there anything that he said that really stood out to you outside of that? Like what he enjoys, what it's becoming?
He just said that when it was kind of funny because he said when he didn't know he wanted to be a council member, and they didn't even know what a council member did.
Yeah.
But they asked him to serve on the initial council once they got their charter, so he did, and then they set up the election and the terms, and he ran, and he served one term, elected, I believe, and just to hear him talk about what Mustang was like in 1969, 1970, 1971, and Mustang Road was a dirt road, and it had trees down the middle of it, and you had to it got to a point where it went out and it round trees in the middle of the road, and now it's if you get off of Interstate 40 in Yukon and come south on Mustang Road to Mustang, it's a 4-lane road. It's actually a state highway.
Yeah,
and it's 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And to realize what it used to be like, and he was great. He was very entertaining and a good storyteller.
Yeah,
good storyteller.
That's really cool. Now, thinking about somebody like that, when I think of somebody like that, I think of him as a mentor, like somebody that. What does mentorship look like for you, and do you mentor anyone, and what does that look like if you do say yes to mentoring someone?
I think mentoring to me is giving back, and you need to do that. You need to look for those areas where you can be a mentor. I know there's a gentleman, and I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. He served on the city council here in Guthrie, and he's a professor at UCO.
John?
Might be.
Is it John?
Anyway,
he was at the conference.
Yes, he does a thing where we can come in as city managers and meet with their class, and they kind of call it speed. It's like speed dating. A city manager's at every table, and then 3 or 4 of the students are at every table, and then they rotate every 5 minutes, and they ask us about our job, and they ask us what we do, and what's our biggest frustration, what do we love about it, and it's I think. Municipal government at times doesn't get a good you're a government worker.
Yeah.
Isn't a profession that's necessarily embraced.
Okay.
And I think it's important for young adults to understand that it's a profession where you can make a difference, and how well you do that is. That's going to be up to you. It's going to be up to you.
Yeah.
So I look for ways to mentor back, and then I also think it's important to be an example in your community. I'm involved in our Kiwanis Club. We run the food bank there. Look for those areas where you can give back. I am on the board of directors for Youth and Family Services of Canadian County.
Yeah.
Look for those areas where you can help organizations with whatever skill you bring.
Yeah.
Will I ever be the person that, I'm trying to think, they're just different, recognize what your skills are and what you can bring to the table.
Sure.
And utilize those.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. That's cool that he does that. I think I heard about him bringing in people to work with the students.
And then we've had a couple different times where we're on a panel and it's an evening class and it's maybe 2 hours and they ask us questions, and it is interesting.
Yeah.
Because what you learn in the classroom regarding public service is very different than what's in the field.
Yeah.
That's
most jobs, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Textbook is a lot different than practicing. Yes.
Yeah. What would be something that you remember like learning maybe textbook wise versus getting you like, this is completely different than what I thought? Is there anything that stands out to you in that area, or something that y'all teach the students now?
Well, I don't think in a lot of classes, let's go the planning background and that route. The academic study of whether something is good in a certain location, it can be very different than what the community's reaction is. It may be the best place for it academically, but if the community doesn't want it there,
it's not the best one.
Then it's probably not the best location for it. And I don't think I was always prepared well for that.
Yeah. So if you come in with that mindset of like, based on my education, this is the best thing, and then you come up against this for the first time of like, why wouldn't the community want what's the best thing? And oftentimes I feel like we try to make decisions as a community that we haven't been educated in, Like I'm really for kind of like what you're saying, let the chief do his job, let the city planner do. Like I'm the same way. Let the city manager, let these people do their jobs in order for us to. I think the community definitely should have some input on things.
There should be checks and balances.
Yeah, there should
absolutely,
be that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm all for people just doing their job because I'm not a city manager. I don't know the things that you know, or Leroy, our city manager, or the city planner, Shonda. I don't know what they know, and so oftentimes though people will try to tell But that's neither here nor there. How can people find you and follow you in the work you're doing in Mustang?
Well, one of the things that I do that might be a little bit unique in Mustang is I do a city manager's report monthly.
Okay.
It's on our website. You can actually sign up to get that
An email?
that sent to you.
Yeah.
A link to it every time it immediately is published on our website. And that report is written to the city council, but it's shared with the community.
Okay.
And I think it's very important to transparency is a real buzzword now, and everybody uses it when I think sometimes they shouldn't use it because they don't do that.
Yeah.
But I think it's very important to always communicate to your citizens what you're doing, what you're looking. That's where we telegraph everything that we're looking at doing in the future. Everything. And it's worked very, very well for us. And then the City Mustang Facebook page is also very good. Just make sure you follow the right one. You'll know right away.
Okay,
You'll know right away. You'll know right away.
Is there a way? Okay, now here's another thing I do. So you got your phone there. So share with us, look at your phone and share with us some of your apps that you don't mind sharing on your home screen. What are some of your apps, your go-to apps?
Well, I have... let me get to that. I have many different, like my screens, they make fun of
Just
me.
kind of go through some of them. See what stands out to you when you're looking at it. To-do apps? You got any to-do apps on there?
No, not really. I mean, my Thunder app, I look at that. I'm a huge Thunder fan, so I'm big in that.
Yeah, well, on Instagram, I see you at the game. Yeah, I can tell.
I'm a big Thunder fan. I don't really. I like to travel, so I probably have more airline apps on my phone than a human being should.
So where do you like to go when you're traveling? Just anywhere?
Well, most of my family's concentrated in the Philadelphia area, so if I'm going to travel and want to go see family, I'm usually going to Philadelphia.
Okay.
And I don't mind going to the beach at all in New Jersey during the summer. But I'm the kind of person that I will go to a city. This fall, I went to Minneapolis. I'd always wanted to go to Minneapolis, and I think I've been a Mary Tyler Moore fan and a Minneapolis fan as a result of that my whole life, and a Minnesota Viking fan as well. So I'm the kind of person that I used to go and I would come out the hotel room or the hotel door and turn left and see what I would discover. And now I'm a little bit better at, okay, what do I want to do when I'm there? Yeah. And of course, and when you go to Minneapolis, you go to the Mall of America, which is just hideously huge. I wish I had their sales tax for one day. One day. It would solve every problem in Mustang. 1 day's worth of sales tax from you
should ask them if they had donated to you.
Yeah, they would adopt. Yeah. They need Minneapolis needs to adopt us as their sister city or something. But I went on the Mary Tyler Moore tour.
Okay.
Everywhere that she's pictured in the opening sequence of that show, you can go and walk and visit through, and they have a statue of her throwing the hat up in the air. And it's just kind of dorky and fun, and that's me. I had a good time. And
now, did you visit? What's Prince's place?
No, Purple. I didn't go to the
Paisley Park.
Yeah, Paisley Park. I didn't go there only because if you go to the website, I think it's kind of sketch.
Okay.
You go there and it says, okay, this is how much it is if you want to go in to see this. And then if you want to go in to see this and then have this, it's this much more. And then if you want to go in, they're upselling you constantly. And it was kind of like, this seems weird. Yeah, and it is weird. I like Prince, but he was not my, I grew up in the 80s, high school and college in the 80s, and he was not my favorite singer.
For sure. Savannah, Georgia. How long were you there?
We moved from there when I was 9 months old.
Oh, okay. Because that's one of those places that I've heard good things about as far as how they've kind of renovated it and kind of changed their downtown.
I think they have the nation's second largest St. Patrick's Day parade.
Oh, okay.
Kind of random.
Yeah.
It's where Girl Scouts were started.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
And it's a beautiful community. I've been back twice as an adult.
Okay.
I have no memories of it when I was a child. And it's interesting to hear my mom when I took, when I've been there with her, to hear her comment about different areas. And, we went on to the military base and drove by the house that we lived in. Of course, I didn't remember any of that. My brother and sister did.
Okay.
I didn't.
Okay.
So
Cool. Well, I sure do appreciate you coming and sitting down with me.
Thank you.
Here on the Hetty Coleman podcast. Make sure that you all go follow Tim and the work that he's doing. And watching, he is a Thunder fan for sure. And Tim, I can't wait to eat this cheesecake.
Good.
I'm gonna try not to eat the whole thing. That's gonna be
you will get sick. It freezes well. Okay.
Well, I don't think we have to freeze it.
Okay. Well, there you go.
There won't be any freezing on this. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for hitting that play button for another episode of the Hetty Coleman podcast. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go win.